Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Malcolm and Marie. Malcolm and Marie is a story set in the present and focuses, as you would guess, on two characters named Malcolm and Marie. They're the only characters in the entire movie. Malcolm is a film director coming home late at night from a premiere of his most recent movie, along with his girlfriend Marie. Malcolm comes home in a really good mood because apparently his movie was very well received at the premiere, so he's playing James Brown music, he's drinking, he's having a great time, but his girlfriend Marie obviously feels a lot different in comparison. She just kind of stands around and smokes cigarettes and doesn't really say much of anything, and whenever Malcolm does say something to her, she just says like, yeah, okay. So we know right away within the first 5 minutes, probably even less than that, that there's definitely something going on. And indeed, that little something ends up kickstarting a whole whirlwind of events throughout the rest of the story. I'm not sure if the trailer mentioned anything about this, because I never watched anything to prepare going into this movie. I just saw the movie and that's it. But Marie is angry with Malcolm because during his thank you address that he delivered to the audience, he forgot to thank Marie for the success and all the things that went into making the movie and all the hard work that he put into it. He forgot to thank her in his speech. And bit by bit, we see this play out in the first few minutes, and Malcolm's celebrating, everything's all great and happy, and he's trying to get Marie into the mood, he wants to get it on at home, but she is just not having it at all. And then over the course of a few minutes after that, we really start to see the arguments start to take off. And those arguments end up leading toward a cavalcade of different events in which everyone starts blaming each other for all the things that are apparently going wrong in the relationship, all the things that they did to support each other, and yet this one thing, this one little thing ends up being the catalyst for a giant mountain of issues that have been building up to the point of this movie. Because it's such a dialogue-heavy movie, it's important to get the characters and the performances nailed to a T, which I think in this film they did a great job at. John David Washington plays Malcolm in the movie, and he does a great job portraying a really arrogant, obnoxious film director that's really high in his own supply when it comes to the fact that he made one movie and yet he's comparing himself to all these great filmmakers that he just lists by name just because he can and because he feels like it. He puts himself on that level with those filmmakers, which obviously causes Marie to antagonize him and say, no, you're really not at that level. As a result, Malcolm digs into Marie's past and brings up all these details in an attempt to try and win an argument against her, and it was just great to see all this character development happening through little bits of dialogue here and there. Zendaya plays Marie in this movie, and even though upon first glance both characters seem really different, I actually found the more I watched it that those two characters were very similar to each other in terms of personality. Both of them just seemed really cocky when it came to their professional backgrounds, while insecure of the others. Throughout the dialogue, we learned that Marie was a drug addict and an aspiring actress who wanted to break into Hollywood, but she eventually gave up on her dreams as well as her health issues compounding on top of all of that. And she really wanted to be in Malcolm's movie and felt that she would have been great for the role, but she ends up feeling like she was discouraged from pursuing that. So she takes out a lot of frustration on Malcolm as a result, which ends up with Malcolm taking out his frustration on her, bringing up all these issues like her drug addiction, which I already mentioned, as well as her adultery, and all these mental health issues going on in the background. He lists off event after event of all these things that would have given him a reason to leave her, but despite all of that, he sticks with her to the end. Because of this big argument that they're having that he feels like is happening for no reason, he feels like he's getting the short end of the stick in this relationship. I apologize if my words sound really jumbled in this review. It's not my intention to do so. It's just such a dialogue-heavy movie that it's hard to hang on to every little bit of dialogue that comes out of both characters' mouths. I think the heavy amount of dialogue in this movie both works for and against this movie's favor. On one hand, it gives us a ton of scenes that are just flat out entertaining to watch. Right at the beginning, Marie cooks macaroni and cheese because Malcolm is hungry, he hasn't had any food since he was at the premiere. And after the first round of arguments, Malcolm's just sitting there at the dinner table with mac and cheese in his mouth, shouting at Marie from one end of the hallway to the other while she's in presumably the bedroom, and it just made no sense why he was doing that, why he continued the argument from the hallway, but oh man, that was hilarious. I was dying with laughter just hearing him make all these ridiculous points while he was eating mac and cheese. And then Marie comes out of the bedroom, or wherever she was, and I don't remember exactly what she said in response to all of Malcolm's points, but it was something to the effect of, really? You're gonna argue with me while eating mac and cheese at the same time? Just whatever she said, I had a ball with that whole scene. That was just A+ from beginning to end. Another example is the LA Times review, whenever the LA Times publishes a review not long after the premiere that Malcolm and Marie had. I really should not spoil this scene because it absolutely has to be seen to be believed. It is one of the most legendary rants I've ever seen committed to film. Malcolm just goes on an absolute tirade towards every imaginable racial system you can think of, every privilege that every white critic has had. Just hearing him go off and on about all these people that he thinks are against him and his chosen art medium was fantastic. I often found myself just cheering sometimes with Malcolm, just going, yeah, you got it, man, go get him. And the whole time Marie is just barely saying a word. She's just laying on the couch, just taking in all of Malcolm's splendor, which was just fantastic to see. That was another fantastic scene. I also like that they take some time to take a break in between the arguments that they're having with each other. Usually in between periods, there's like a few minutes where they vent their frustrations with themselves, or they go pee outside or whatever, and then they come back in the house and they resume where they left off. This gives the audience to take a break from the intense arguments that they're having with each other and just really sort of take in all the words that they're hearing, because believe me, there are a lot of words. And speaking about this amount of words, unfortunately, there's so many words in this film that it often leads to the characters contradicting each other within a few minutes of saying whatever it was they said. There might be a scene where Malcolm says that Marie is meek, but then a few minutes later, he says that she's too talkative. And in another scene, Marie will say that Malcolm is very collaborative, listing off all of these people from makeup artists to gaffers and all that whenever he has his thank you speech, but at the same time, he also says that he's very selfish and that he's only in the filmmaking industry for himself and his visions of grandeur. I guess it makes sense that in an argument, people will tend to contradict themselves as they speak because tensions are high. They're not always going to be paying attention to every word that they're saying. And I didn't really mind it so much in the beginning of the film, but as it goes on, I just found that the characters started to tread old ground constantly. I found that they were just saying the same things over and over and over again. And there are a few happy scenes as well in that movie where the characters resolve an argument and they're happy, you know, they're hugging, they're kissing and all that, and then a few minutes later someone will have some sort of random epiphany and then the argument will resume where it left off. In general, I hate it when characters manufacture drama like this. Honestly, I wouldn't really mind so much if it was like a legit short film, like half an hour long or something like that. That would have been better for the story, I feel, rather than being a 2-hour long feature of people just shouting and ranting at each other. And like I said, it isn't just shouting and ranting, but I feel that the scenes where people take a break and they're happy and all that, they take a backseat in favor of all the shouting and arguing that's taking place. And I just felt that the constant back and forth between hot and cold really ruined the flow of the story for me. Something else to note is that this film was shot entirely in black and white, which I don't quite 100% understand the reasoning behind. Maybe someone else more educated in film than I am can guess accurately on this, but the only idea I could think of was that black represents one side of the argument and white represents the other, because after all, there's only two characters in the whole story, so it makes sense that one side would be black and one side would be white. So it really seems that Sam Levinson really truly wanted to create a character study that focused on two characters unraveling their true personalities to each other over the course of one night, at least in the story anyway. And I really think for the most part that the character development comes across quite well in the story. We get to learn about Malcolm being obsessed with film and how passionate he is about it, while at the same time also being obnoxious for being a first-timer. And we get to see how frustrated Marie is with Malcolm and how she feels like she's being left out of his professional life, and at the same time we start to see how jealous of a person Marie is. Overall, I think this movie is okay. It definitely gets a lot of things right in terms of character development, but I don't think this movie should have been 2 hours long. I think it could have easily accomplished whatever message it was going for in just half an hour or maybe less. But if you're aching for a good character study and you want to see not one but two characters transform over a movie, then I think this movie is for you. Anyways guys, that's going to be my review of Malcolm and Marie. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part where next time I review the documentary Strip Down, Rise Up. Bye bye!